it's a negative for Canada because energy is our biggest export sector. In recent years, energy has accounted for a quarter of Canada's international exports, and oil, crude oil, is by far the biggest slice of that. And the price of our largest export has collapsed, and so obviously it flows back into Canada in the form of reduced revenue, lower profits for the energy industry, and we'll see, I think, a significant trimming of investment, CapEx, in 2015 and 16, especially next year, actually. It also hits government revenue, most importantly in the three big oil-producing provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Newfoundland. But there's a hit for the federal government of probably $5 to $7 billion a year. So it's even though it's positive for consumers, it's a net negative for the Canadian economy. That's not true for BC, though. BC, it's actually a net plus. Because we produce very little oil in British Columbia. We import almost everything we consume. So we're not going to see here the hit to business revenues, profits, and capital investment that our friends in Alberta are about to experience. So it's actually, if you sort of put it through an economic model, the collapse of oil prices at least on the first pass, is moderately positive for the BC macroeconomy because of basically equivalent of a tax cut for BC consumers of up to $1.5 billion a year. So it's fairly material. It's difficult to envisage that multi-billion-dollar greenfield energy projects are going to go forward expeditiously when the global energy marketplace is in turmoil. And although LNG is a different commodity from crude oil, in the Asian markets that we're looking at, they're linked. The two markets are linked. And indeed, we have seen downward pressure on LNG and natural gas prices in Asia over the past 6 months as oil prices have plummeted. So even though these LNG proposals are long-term projects that will take quite a few years to construct, and the proponents will presumably be signing long-term purchase agreements with customers in Asia. So, the short-term market doesn't dictate everything, but I think it will slow down decision-making unquestionably. So that's a negative for BC. But, in the short run, LNG is a very small factor in our outlook for 2015. In other words, we aren't assuming and weren't assuming a whole bunch of activity around LNG this year. So even if it's delayed for a year or two, it doesn't have a huge impact on our forecast for the province. Because of three factors, it's actually pretty good. One is the collapse of energy prices, which is a positive for households. Second is the rebounding American economy, which is really the big story of 2015, I think. Certainly not Asia. Asia is weak, but the U.S. seems to be coming on strong. We're going to really benefit from that in our lumber industry and our tourism industry. And the third factor is the lower Canadian dollar, which has made us more competitive. It's improved the kind of cost position of a lot of our trade-exposed industries. So those three factors by themselves should produce a fairly positive macro environment for the province. Even though Canada is actually going to be weaker in 2015, we see BC actually stronger than we were last year. So we're looking at growth around 2.5% after inflation, whereas for Canada we'll probably be closer to 2%. For 2016 it gets dicier because then LNG does begin to figure into our calculus, as does Site C, BC Hydro's Site C proposal. We assume in our 2016 forecast that at least one major LNG project moves ahead in 2016. In other words, there's shovels in the ground, and that Site C advances as well. And in that scenario, we have growth in BC of up to 3% or more in 2016, but it's contingent on what I just said, that LNG actually, at least one project actually moves ahead, and that Site C moves ahead. And if neither of those were to happen, we'd be looking at a weaker backdrop for 2016. Our entire electricity fleet is essentially renewables today, with very, very small exceptions. Site C would be a renewable energy project. So in fact, Canada as a country is one of the most renewables intensive energy consumers in the world on the electricity side, something we don't actually get much credit for in the discussion that flows from the environmental groups who tend to paint Canada as a bad guy. But when it comes to electricity generation, we're one of the greenest major countries in the world, more so than Germany, for example. But for the renewables sector on outside, I think is going to be challenged globally and in North America by two things. One is the collapse of oil prices, which frankly has made it more cost-effective, and natural gas prices being very low in North America. So there's a lot of interest in using fossil fuels as an energy source when the prices of the commodities have come down sharply. And although renewables are becoming more competitive over time, the fact is this huge dislocation in fossil fuel markets, I think, presents some economic challenges to the renewable sector. And we're certainly seeing that reflected in the stock market with the equity valuations of a lot of renewable firms. So long term, yes, I think the outlook for renewables is good. But the next 2-3 years, I think we're looking at a much more challenging environment.